This is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. On the last episode of Peace Talks, we looked at which Americans to watch in the 2024 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship. This time, we'll be looking at the rest of the world, which, it turns out, is pretty big. Back with me again is world-class speed puzzler, and fair to say, jigsaw puzzling superfan, E.B. Caron.
Oh, I love my title. Hi, Rob. It's great to be back.
It's great to have you. I got such enthusiastic response from our last podcast about the Americans that I'm so thrilled to come back and do this again with you to look at the rest of the world. And also want to say thank you for bringing this idea. This was your idea originally. It was a great idea. People love it. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
The other thing I realized is that at the end of the last episode, I don't think I let you tell people where to find you. So maybe we should start with like where can people find more EB Caron? And we'll talk about that again at the end in case people miss it. But where's the right place to find you?
Probably the best place is Instagram at Puzzle Free or Die. I don't post that much there though.
Is that right? I feel like you post a fair amount.
I put a lot in my story, but I have like commitment phobia about posting on my actual timeline.
I have to say, speaking of Instagram, I have seen more Instagram posts and stories about people practicing with schedules and real intent than I recall seeing at all for any other event. Have you noticed that, or is that just I wasn't paying as much attention the last time?
That's a good question. I definitely was practicing a lot. I think maybe people are being more public with how much they're practicing. One big change from last year is myspeedpuzzling.com. So that wasn't around last year. And I think that is upping the public sharing of practice times.
And myspeedpuzzling.com is where people can go to post scores on puzzles or times on puzzles.
Yes, all of your favorite fast, maybe not all of them, but many of your favorite fast puzzlers can be found there. Many of the ones we're talking about today. I would say there's been a bit more uptake in the European puzzling community than the American puzzling community, but a good number of Americans use it regularly also.
All right. So your sense of it is that the level of practice that we're seeing is probably about the same as the level of practice there was last time. We just have more visibility into it.
Yeah, I'm more curious about the practice that we don't have visibility into. Who's keeping their practice secret, you know?
Is that right? Do you think people are strategically keeping things secret?
Maybe now that they know that I'm recording this podcast. No.
Wow. So you think that people don't want other people to know how good they might be at this competition?
You know, I did hear about a Polish urban legend that I'm going to surprise you with later that was not named for privacy reasons. But I have my guess at who it is.
All right. All right. Well, let's roll into some quick stats about the world's competition in general. So there are 75 countries last I checked, and it was been, I think, 2 days. 75 countries participating, about 1,200 total competitors across all divisions, 700 pairs, 263 different teams. Last time I mentioned that there were 116 US entrants. Now there are 119 as of let's call it 1st of September when we're recording this, including some Portland locals, the team Queen Bee. Shout out to Rose and Leah Robbins, Beatrice Endler, and Aaron Fisk, who have now joined the ranks of those folks going off to Worlds. Watch out for their t-shirts because I had a hand in their design. Also, they chose to do the same thing that we do with my teams, which is choose the brightest possible color so that if you're not the people that people are taking pictures of, you're at least easily found in the background.
That's awesome. I enjoyed watching them at the Portland Jigsaw Masters. So now I know I can cheer them on again.
You can, yeah. It's one more team to cheer on. I'm running out of bandwidth to cheer on people. There are just so many people I want to do well. Also in this competition on the international side are 166 German entrants, 132 Spanish entrants, 72 people from France, 45 Polish entrants, and 42 from the UK, among others. So Germany, especially, sort of surprisingly, coming out with a lot of folks on their roster. Is Germany, in your opinion, sort of known as a puzzling powerhouse?
It's interesting, right? Because Ravensburger is in Germany.
Great point.
However, no, they are not known as a puzzling powerhouse.
Spain, on the other hand, sort of in some senses the spiritual center of the jigsaw puzzling world. They've had a jigsaw puzzling culture, at least I would say in more depth than I have seen most places in the United States and most other countries. So not surprising. Also their home country to see 132 folks from Spain.
Yeah, not surprising. I feel like I'm jumping into things, but should we start talking about some Spanish puzzlers?
Oh well, let's hold on that. Hold
Okay.
off that. As I was saying in the pre-recording side of things, if you're not aware, Evie is a tough person to keep up with. She's not only speeding in the puzzling world, but speeding in the podcasting world. She's got a document that is, I don't know, pages and pages long of all the people that she wants to talk about, and was adding people to that list all the way up until we started recording. So keeping you under any kind of tether is, I think, a joyful but challenging job on my part. So hold off for just a sec. We'll get there. But
Okay.
first, I want to talk a little bit about stats I'm bringing to bear here.
Yes, yes. Okay, I was waiting for this.
Um, so previously, I brought some statistics across, I can't remember how many different competitions, but I felt like they weren't telling the whole story. So I went and, in the meantime, since our last podcast, built a scoring system for all of the world competitors that basically are trying to evaluate how people have done up until this point. The scoring system now covers everybody who's had a score in any competition with a 500 piece individual event that I could find from the beginning of 2023 up until August 28th, for those of you counting along. So that discounts, there's already been a couple of other competitions that have happened since August 28th. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this scoring system works, because who doesn't like a good scoring system? If you're one of those who doesn't like a good scoring system, fast forward a little bit. So what I'm doing is I've taken 126 competitions that I was able to feed into my database. And whenever I see a person who's showed up for the first time there, they get a score of 1,000. And then whenever they go into a competition, everybody is ranked by their score. So if you have the highest score, you're ranked first. If you have the lowest score, you're ranked last. And that's sort of how we expect people to finish the puzzle, right? So if we had no other information, then that's how we would expect people to finish. And then they get points added or taken away based on where they actually finished versus where they were predicted to finish. So if you were predicted to finish fourth and you finished first, you get 3 extra points. If you were predicted to finish 10th and you finished 20th, you would lose 10 points. So that's the basics of the scoring system. Nice and simple. And I just roll that through every competition that I've got in the database. So in that data, I have 3,763 people with at least one competition. And to qualify for a score, you have to have been taken part in at least 5 competitions. So of that, we have 468 scored people. So they have 5 or more competitions. I'm trying not to use it as a way to predict where people might be, but just to say where they have been, to give an indication of where they are. That being said, I'll be using this and some other stats as the basis for how we look at predictions and rankings for individuals, pairs, and teams. The model has some flaws for sure. So if there are any other data nerds out there that want to create an international scoring system, hit me up.
I'm so excited. But now can we talk about some Spanish puzzler?
I appreciate you holding back that far. Let's go.
All right. So yes, our plan is to talk about some of the puzzlers first, and then in the second half we will get into our predictions. I'm so excited for that part also, because Rob's predictions are very stat based, and mine are going to be intuition based, and then it's going to be documented, and we can see.
EB's just looking for another way to compete.
Yes. I'm also trying to figure out a fantasy football draft for Worlds, but I don't know how to play fantasy football, so that's the next project.
Well, you've only got a couple of weeks, so you got to get going.
Yeah.
All right, Spain, let's go.
Okay. Can we talk about Spain without starting with Alejandro? Probably not. That's where everyone expects us to start, right?
I can't imagine starting any other way. But if you want to buck the trend, we can certainly do that.
Let's start with Alejandro. So, everyone listening to this podcast is probably familiar with Alejandro Clemente Leon. He was first in Spanish Nationals in 2022, 2023, and 2024, and has also placed first in Worlds both in 2023 and in 2022.
He has, according to so I'm going to talk about points a lot. So he has 1,095.4 points. And as I talk about more people, that'll make more sense. He's ranked based on his points fourth overall in the world. And we'll talk about who the other ones are above that, because that's kind of a surprise that he would be down that far. And I'll talk a little bit about why he is. His fastest 500 piece puzzle ever was 32.7 minutes, which puts him fifth overall in terms of fastest puzzles I have in my data. And his average pieces per minute is 12.9 pieces per minute, averaged across all the competitions he's been, which puts him first. For those who don't know him, is it worth giving a little background?
Let's see. Alejandro is from Barcelona and he is a Harry Potter fan. So I actually noticed that he wore the same t shirt. I'm not sure if it's a lucky t shirt, but that's my guess. He's worn the same Harry Potter t shirt at multiple Worlds competitions,
Is that right?
2022 and 2023 now. So that might have to go into the fantasy football draft, like that t shirt.
I can imagine a jigsaw puzzling Hall of Fame with all the memorabilia from famous jigsaw puzzlers throughout the ages. Maybe that shirt would make it into it.
One thing that I love about Alejandro is his mom. The one regret that I have about Worlds getting so much bigger is that his mom is on camera less, because I love watching Alejandro's mom watch him puzzle and get very emotional. And especially since I'm watching from home this year, I'm gonna miss seeing her. And that was like a highlight of watching 2022 Worlds for me. And I got to meet her last year. That was like on my Worlds bucket list, was like meeting Alejandro's mom.
I feel like you maybe met more puzzlers' parents than any other person in the world.
Yeah, I feel like Alejandro's mom was kind of like my first, and now it like started a sub hobby.
People don't realize that when I say you're a super fan, like that is maybe understating it a bit.
That's true.
At some point, we have to talk about Alejandro versus Kristen. You want to do that now, or do you want to wait until we get down to Kristen?
Well, we could also wait till we get to our predictions.
We could. They've just been having some interesting kind of slugfest going on.
They have, yes, thanks to the Euro Jigsaw Jam, which I have been watching hours and hours of to learn more about these puzzlers from other parts of the world who I haven't gotten to the chance to meet. Alejandro and Kristen have been matched up 5 times to date, and Kristen has beaten Alejandro 3 times. Alejandro has beaten Kristen twice.
What's interesting is that when Alejandro wins, Kristen is second. When Kristen wins, Alejandro can be all the way down to fourth. When she loses, she only just loses, which I find interesting. Like
Yes.
they're so tightly matched, it seems.
Yes. Some other puzzlers we'll be talking about that have beaten Alejandro, although they have not beaten Kristen, include Victor from Poland and Teresa from Czech Republic.
Well, now we're well and truly jumping ahead.
Oh, yes, we are. Let's get back to Spain. Alejandro this year is pairing with his partner from last year, Gisela, Gisela Aranz Toro. Gisela is a very speedy puzzler. Do you want to share some of your numbers on her, Rob?
Sure. She's got 1,091 points. Which places her eighth overall in my data.
Mhm.
Her fastest 500 piece puzzle was 42.2 minutes, which is 51st overall, which is sort of
Mm.
surprisingly slow. Her average pieces per minute across all of her competitions, and I've got 10, by the way, in my data, is 10.5, which puts her 16th overall in the world.
Gisela was fourth in Spanish Nationals this year. In 2022, she placed fifth in the solo round at Worlds, and last year she placed 16th.
The pairing of them in my ranking of pairs is ranked number one. So they are the ones coming in, I think, that are the ones to beat.
Absolutely. They really destroyed the competition last year. Like it was not close, period.
Now, Alejandro's team, on the other hand, is not placed quite so high. He's got a different set of folks. Gisela is on a different team of her own. Do you want to talk about Alejandro's team at all?
Sure. Alejandro is sticking with his team from 2022 and 2023 nonstop. In 2022, this team placed first. I believe they were the only team to finish both puzzles. This was the year where they had the 1,000 piece New York, like Broadway scene, and the 1,500, mostly night sky
Mm-hmm.
scene. I think they were the only team to finish both puzzles. However, last year they placed third, just behind my team, the Misfits. And they were definitely seen as the team to beat last year. And this year, I think less so. It's interesting. In Spanish nationals, there was a different kind of Spanish super team of Alejandro Hizela and Laura and Rafa, who we'll definitely talk about soon. And this team, Los Sin Nombre, like the nameless, they won by almost 20 minutes against some strong teams.
Yeah, the nonstop team I have as ranked sixth coming into the competition. So
Hmm.
definitely not obviously the team to beat. I feel like, Alejandro does well individually and he and Gisela do an excellent job as a pair. But I think that once you split them up and add some other folks into them, it evens up the playing field a bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Los Nonstop continue in Worlds or if maybe Los Sin Nombre will come in 2025. I'd love to see that.
Gisela's team has one of my favorite names, the Fellowship of the Puzzle. That being said, not ranked particularly high coming into this competition at 53. And I will need to say that I'm going to say things like that as we go, keeping in mind that we're looking at the best of the best of the best in this entire competition. So they're ranked 53 out of hundreds. So that is not terrible, beyond not terrible. So when I say things like they're not as high as other teams. I mean that relatively speaking.
Actually, Laura Aispurua de Arteque was the next person I wanted to talk about. So, this is one of the Spanish nationals teammates who will not be um, part of that team at Worlds. Laura was second at Spanish nationals this year. She was fourth in 2023 Spanish Nationals. And last year at Worlds, she placed 12th in the finals after placing first in her qualification round, uh, round E.
Laura has a score of 1,098.6, which places her third overall, one above Alejandro,
Mm.
primarily because she had a better than expected, predicted by my system, performance at the last Worlds, which gave her a lot of points. And she hasn't really competed since. So she hasn't
Mm.
had the opportunity to lose points. So she gained a whole bunch of points at one event, and we've seen her, I think, just in the nationals competition since. So the scoring system I have can be a little biased by sudden bursts of performance and not having any other events afterwards. And this is one of those places where that shows up. Her fastest 500 piece ever is 41.6, which puts her at 46th overall, and her average pieces per minute is 12, which puts her 22nd overall.
Now, Laura's Paris partner, Rafa or Rafael Amieva Gomez, they have been Paris partnering for a while, and this summer they got married.
Scandal or great?
I think it's great. Congratulations, Rafa and Laura. So, yes, they've been pairing as puzzle partners for a while. I don't know the history of their romantic partnership.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know.
So as a pair, they are coming in ranked 21st, and their team, the Peace Seekers, is ranked 18th.
Yeah, I would say as a pair, they seem to be getting better over time. So for example, in 2023, they placed sixth in the Spanish Nationals. In 2024, they placed third, so getting better there. They placed 22nd in 2023 Worlds and 23rd in 2022 Worlds, which is like, same placement. However, the competition was much steeper.
So much
Um,
steeper
yeah.
in 23. Yeah, I think that we will see. My guess is that we will see a similar escalation of competition this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. So the next person we can talk about, Gabriel Moreno Torcu. Last year, he was on a team with Laura and Rafa, along with his brother, Eduardo. So Gabi is a kid. He's around 12 years old. I did get to meet him last year. I heard Alejandro in a Euro Jigsaw GM interview saying about Gabi, he's a beast.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I have him actually in 10 events, and his score is 1073.6, which puts him 21st in the world. So for a 12-year-old, that's pretty great. His fastest 500 piece time is 42.1, which is 49th overall. And his average pieces per minute is 10.5, which is 15th in the world. So he is a speed demon. And what's interesting to know is that if you look at his score over time, it has accelerated pretty rapidly every time he touches a jigsaw puzzle. So he's not only 21st, which is amazing for his age, but he's 21st and seeming ascending. He definitely seems like one to watch out for. I had forgotten that he was only 12, and I made note of that in my notes for this. I was like, wow, this is a score, like an acceleration of a score that
Mm.
just warrants keeping an eye on.
Right. And because he's only 12, he will not be competing solo. So he'll only be competing in pairs and teams. In pairs, he will be pairing with his partner from 2023 Worlds, Soraya. That is Soraya Perez Carriol. Um, and in teams, he and his brother, who's a few years older, are on a team called Viejovenes. So like a combination of the word viejo, old, and jóvenes, young. Viejovenes. They competed together at Spanish nationals.
A lot of his competitions are relatively local, relatively smaller scale. Spain has a lot of relatively smaller competitions that are scored and available. So I pulled in all of that data. So he's actually confined a little bit in terms of how high his score could go by the fact that the pools of people he's competing against are fairly small. His pairs team with Soraya is ranked 12 coming in, and his team is ranked 23rd overall coming in.
Yeah, Soraya and Gabi placed, let's see, they placed in the top 10. I, oh, they placed eighth in the Paris final last year. Soraya is also someone to watch, I would say. Should we talk about her next?
Yeah, it's interesting that watching Soraya and Gabi play last year, I had wondered because we didn't get a chance to see Gabi on his own because he's under the, I forget what the threshold is age wise.
It is 14. They lowered it this year. However, so last year it was 16. They've lowered it to 14, but he's still not old enough.
Gotcha. So when you see an adult paired with a younger person on the same pairs or teams, you wonder how much it is the adult pulling the weight, and how much of it is the kid actually being able to do the work. And so that's where I was really interested to see that once I was able to find some events for Gabi, it really bears out his performance. But Soraya is a stronger performer, at least so
Hmm.
far. Soraya's score is 1080.7, which puts her 15th in the world. Her fastest 500 is 36.2 minutes, which puts her 10th in the world. and her average pieces per minute is 10.0, which is 24th overall. So she's pretty strong all by herself. I guess not all by herself. She is quite strong. He is also quite strong.
Yes, although Gabi has beaten her at Spanish Nationals both the past 2 years. So,
There you go. Soraya is on a different team than Gabi is. Soraya's team, Todos Calle, I'm going to guess, is ranked 13th coming in.
pretty strong.
Yeah, with and on that team is Manuel Espinoza Torres, which I think we'll be talking about in a little bit.
I guess while we're on the topic of kid puzzlers, we can add a quick mention of Alma Bell, who I also got to meet last year at Worlds. Alma will be on a different team this year with Spanish puzzlers rather than kind of a mix of international puzzlers.
Right, and Alma's on Manuel Espinoza Torres's team, so
Hmm.
that or Pear's team. So that's where I was thinking about that. I don't have any data for Alma. I actually have one piece of data, which is not enough to draw any kind of extrapolations because she's a youth. She's not competed in a lot of events that where there's a score for. So she was fun to watch. She was obviously skilled. You could probably say more about that than I can from the numbers.
Well, we did race. I beat Alma, but she beat me on another puzzle, so we're like 1-1 at this point.
So rematch, tiebreakers in order.
And I got to meet her mom. I think maybe the last Spanish puzzlers we'll talk about are Las Anas, the Anas. So these are Ana Gil Luciano and Ana Isabel Jimeno Horda. Of the two, Ana Gil is the stronger puzzler, and they have been sticking together as a pair for quite some time. I love their like commitment to each other as pairs puzzlers. Um, I looked back in AE Puzz records, and it seemed like they might have met in 2014
Wow.
because um, Ana Isabel beat beat Ana Luciano by 2.5 minutes in 2014. However, the first time they competed together was 2017, which is still like quite some time ago.
Yeah, they've been had plenty of time to get to know how each other works. Do you want to talk about what AE Puzz is for folks at home?
Oh, sure. AEPUZ is the Asociación Española de Puzzles, so like the Spanish Puzzle Association. Um, and they are why I think until recently, like Spain was the heart of competitive puzzling across the world.
So Anna Gil Luciano is has a score of 1,091.2, which puts her seventh in the world. Her fastest 500 is 40.7 minutes, which is 39th overall, and her average pieces per minute is 10.32, which is 18th overall.
Yes, Ana GL took third in Spanish Nationals in 2023, fifth in Spanish Nationals in 2024. She did place first in her qualification round at Worlds last year on the Amy Stewart puzzle, uh, and placed 33rd in the final in the solo.
Ana Isabel Jimeno Horda is 83rd overall with a score of 1,057. Her fastest 500 is 49.4, which is 120th overall. And her average pieces per minute is 8.54, which is down a ways. I actually don't have that number written here for some reason.
But yes, they've been pairing for quite some time. And oh, yeah, so last year at Worlds, they placed ninth in the pairs final. So they were in the top 10. They were the last people to finish the puzzle.
Everybody else wasn't finishing because it
Correct.
was
Yes.
hard.
Yeah. So, yeah, Caron and I placed 10th. We did not finish the puzzle, and we were 7 pieces ahead
Oh, that's
of,
right.
yeah, some people will be talking about Tobias and Sarah from Sweden, I think.
All right. Well, before we get to Sweden, what about the Czech Republic?
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about the Czech Republic. We've got some of our favorite puzzlers from last year returning. Teresa Koptikova and Marketa Frizlarova, uh, who were both in the top 10 at Worlds last year. Teresa's prelim round was, you know, she won many, like minutes and minutes ahead of others. Marketa actually beat her in the final. And let me predict something, Rob. I think you're going to tell me that Teresa's score is higher than Marketa's. Is that true?
Oh, I'm not, as a matter of fact. I know. But
Oh.
the reason is just like we were talking about before, is that Marqueta has very few events recorded. She only has four, which means that
Mm.
she did really well in Worlds in 2023 and has done the Euro Jam, I think number five. It was the last one that I have on record, which means she suffers from or benefits from this spike in a big competition and not a lot of competitions after that to bring it down to size. So
Oh.
Teresa, who has done 7 competitions, has a score of 1081.1, which puts her 13th in the world. Her
Hmm.
fastest 500 is 30.6, which is the first fastest in my data. And then her average pieces per minute is 12.3, which puts her third in the world in terms of overall speed. Now, just I don't have a lot of data for Marqueta for the reasons that I mentioned. Her score is 1099.5, but that's primarily on the back of an impressive stint at the Worlds. Her fastest 500, however, is 42.6, which puts her down a ways. I don't actually have the number here. And her average pieces per minute is 9.9 compared to Teresa's 12.3. So I think that if we see Marqueta doing a lot more competitions, I would expect either her numbers to settle or she to reinforce these numbers a bit. So I think it's a little more of a quirk of the data than it is
Hmm.
saying anything in particular.
Yes, and I'm sure I know that Marketa can do a 500 piece puzzle faster than that. She's someone who has been on myspeedpuzzling.com. She goes by the like name Maki over
Hmm.
there, Maky. And yeah, she and Teresa are both very active there and have been uh, logging lots and lots of speedy times, both as a pair and solo. They live about 15 minutes away from each other. And back in June, Teresa said that they were training solo every day and together about once a month.
Their pair is ranked 2 coming into this competition, and their team, the Czech Puzzle Queens, is ranked number 5.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, can we talk about their teammates? Because I'm really excited about their teammates.
Let's do it.
So this year, Teresa and Marquita have two like new old teammates. So
That's right.
they're two teammates who, along with them, won last year at Worlds. Are will not be on the team this year. Instead, we've got Yana Androskova, who did not attend 2023 Worlds, however, was the 2019 Worlds solo champion. Now, she was using two different last names that year, Rob, which may have
Mm-hmm.
confused your data.
It did until I found your notes in the document.
Well, I think I asked Teresa about that. In 2022, she was also at Worlds. She placed 12th in the solo round that year. And their fourth teammate, oh, do you want to give any numbers on Yana?
So I have very little on Giannis. We've got 3 recorded events for her. So none of the information I will have is particularly indicative of it. The fastest 500 piece time I have is 46.6, which isn't particularly speedy. Again, substantially faster than I could ever hope to go. But given the kind of the folks that we're talking about here, her average pieces per minute is 10.17, which is actually quite high, but unclear over 3 events if that's going to have staying power.
And their fourth teammate is Katerina Klinkova. She also did not attend 2023 Worlds. And in the past, she had a different last name. So in 2022 Worlds, she placed first with Teresa in pairs as Katerina Novotna. And Katerina also placed eighth in the individual competition at 2022 Worlds, and back in 2019 placed third in the solo competition at Worlds. So this is a very strong team with, they all have previous world level, international level speed puzzling experience.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do all put together. Katarina's another one that I've only got 3 events for, so I can't project a terribly a lot out of it. Her fastest 500 was 38.4, so better than Yana's current small number that we have. Her average pieces per minute is 11.1, which is also pretty substantial. Her together, Yana and Katarina's pair is ranked 31 coming into the competition.
Hmm. And yes, they are pairing together. They also paired at 2019 Worlds together and placed second in the world.
As you said
Hmm.
before, the world has moved on away, so it'll be interesting to see if they've kept up because we
Yes,
don't have a
it
lot of
really,
data. At least
yeah,
I don't have a lot of data for it.
true. And the reason their name is the Czech Puzzle Queens, Teresa told me, is because all of them have a first place trophy from some event at Worlds.
That's amazing.
They've all taken first in some event in some year.
So it's a super team.
It really is a super team, and I'm really excited to see Yana and Katerina and how they do individually after a break, because that might be me next year. Um, and yeah, I'm really, I think they're going to be a team to beat for sure.
All right, I've got one other person or one other thing to talk about in the Czech Republic that I wanted to mention. The only other people I wanted to mention was a team, which is 4,000 Pieces of Suffering, which in contention for my favorite name of the team name of the season or the competition. They are currently ranked 19th in the world. So
Hmm.
I'm going to take a stab at some names you haven't probably prepared for. You can correct me if you know any of these, but Jan Scotch, Martin Petraz, Adam Shurin, and Yana Chitkova. So just thought I would mention them because they appeared in contention top 20. I like to mention the folks who are in the top 20 of any particular division.
All right, let's go north to Norway.
I could tell by the excitement in your voice where we were going next.
Oh boy. So well, let's just start talking about Kristen, of course. Uh, Kristen Tuve. Kristen placed second in the world in both 2022 and 2023, behind Alejandro. And she really narrowed that gap last year. She is also the 2024 Norwegian champion by over 12 minutes, above the second place finisher. Kristen's been competing in Euro Jigsaw Jams, as we talked about previously. Would you like to give Kristen's numbers, Rob?
You bet. So Kristen's suffers from the reverse problem that we were talking about in terms of scoring, which is that she did really well in relatively small areas of competition, which didn't give her the boost that large competitions can provide. So she did well in the 2019, I think it was, or 2022, that's the one, 2022 competition against a relatively narrower field, which didn't give her the big points boost. So she's actually sixth overall at 1,092.7 points. Her fastest 500 is 34.1, which is ninth overall, but her average pieces per minute is 12.6, which places her second in the world, and that's over 11 events. So I think
Mm.
that's clearly the number that stands out. But what's really interesting is that since the Euro Jigsaw Jam has opened up the ability for people in Europe to play a lot more competitions, they don't necessarily have to go to a place. There doesn't have to be an organizer. They can compete much like we have speedpuzzling.com here in the US. Um, it's allowed folks like Kristen, who may be underrepresented, not that she's trying to do this, obviously, to have their score level up to where it actually probably more rightly sits. So if
Mm.
you look at her scoring from the beginning of the data that I have, it is up the entire way across. So we're seeing that she is settling, but she is settling up to the high level that you would expect from her.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, while we're talking again about your jigsaw jam, I just want to give a shout out to Michelle Casper, who is the New Zealander living in Germany, who is has she found out about speed puzzling in January of this year and just like jumped into trying it out herself and hosting these competitions, and as of now has hosted 20 online competitions as well as one in-person competition in Trier, Germany this summer. And I just think she's doing such a service for European puzzlers, letting them get the experience um,
Absolutely.
that we American puzzlers have been getting for a few years now. Um, where competing with other very fast puzzlers isn't a really big financial and time investment where you have to go someplace to do it, but you can, order a puzzle, do it at home, and get that experience that is really important um, to take with you when you go to these in person events.
Absolutely. And as a data nerd and a fanboy of puzzle competitions in general, it also offers a lot more data, which is great, but also a lot more opportunity to see the best of the world compete against each other. So I actually reached out to Michelle earlier today and just thanked her for putting that competition together because of the it was an immediate success. I see people talking good things about it. I love the structure that she's got. I don't love the fact that it seems like people can predict what the puzzle might be, which for a data nerd throws off my data a little bit because I know that some folks have predicted correctly what the puzzle is and have practiced. So it throws off whether or not somebody is actually as good as they show. I don't know if you have any opinions on any of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. My friends and I used to do that for speedpuzzling.com competitions,
Sure.
but after a while it got kind of old and it didn't feel like it was helpful for the training part of it. So like I
Interesting.
think, we went into it like the reason, was like, oh, if I can predict what it is and like look at the image, or, even if I might have that puzzle in my collection, and that never happened to me. I mean, I have gotten like repeat puzzles, but not like I predicted it and practiced it the day before. Um, but last year when I was practicing for Worlds, I was a like super groupie, which is like the biggest discount rate,
Right. On speed
where I was
puzzling. Yeah.
doing it for four competitions a month. And when you're doing that many, it got tiring to try to analyze the size of the box, guess the brand. And so it got old to try to do that. And I wonder if it'll get old for the like frequent flyers in your Jigsaw Jam, because it's still new for them. And so I think it's still new and exciting.
Yeah, you're finding an audience who has a new enthusiasm for a venue they didn't used to have. They're looking for every opportunity to sort of engage with it, which means trying to anticipate what the puzzle is. Do they give hints for what the puzzle might be, like brands or something like that? I got the sense
Well,
that it wasn't just figuring out what the box size was.
I've watched a lot of the YouTube live streams, which is one of the things I love about your Jigsaw Jam, that it does get live streamed. And in the beginning, Michelle was giving hints. So she
Got
was
it.
saying things like, the next one is very dark, so you want to have good light. I haven't heard her giving hints recently, but there were some hints that I think may have helped early on. But it seems like people are also using myspeedpuzzling.com as a screening out tool, which is interesting.
How do you mean?
So if they've identified the brand,
Hmm.
which you can often do by box size, like that's you hold up,
Sure.
you just like push the boxes together and find a match. Um, you can Once you identify the brand, you can usually um, kind of look at the catalog. Now, then you can use that catalog to back search on myspeedpuzzling.com, and the rationale, from what I can tell, is like, oh, Michelle won't choose one that like 30 people have already done. And so that then narrows the catalog to a point where people can predict, often very accurately.
Are you in secret groups on the dark web?
Honestly, I've gotten this from the YouTube video.
Is that right? So just
Yeah.
watching the live stream.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was very like mystified by Amelia Lieberman's like accuracy in
Yeah.
predicting
Mhm.
because she seems to have an uncanny knack at predicting puzzles. However, now that I understand some of the methodology, it makes sense why other people are doing it, how other people are doing it too.
Well, I'm a big fan of exploiting whatever system there is out there. So if you can figure out how to do better in your particular thing, great. I just hope that they close as many doors as possible to try and make this a pure apples to apples comparison. For some reason, the idea that some people might be able to discover and practice the night before doesn't quite sit well with me. But I have to say, I'm overwhelmingly thrilled that the Euro Jigsaw Jam exists in the world.
Yeah, and I do think it's like partly the novelty, and as it goes on, people will realize like for my ultimate goal of like going to Worlds, this isn't knowing the puzzle beforehand isn't actually helpful because I'm really not going to know what the puzzle I'm going to get is unless you're Amelia Lieberman, and honestly, I think she will know. Or she'll I'm curious how many of like the 6 prelim puzzles she'll have correctly predicted.
All right. Well, I could continue going down this road a ways. So let's maybe move back.
Let's get
We've
back
gotten a
on
ways
track.
away from Kristen.
Right.
I think we could probably
Yes.
have a whole episode about the Euro Jigsaw Jam. So you want to talk about her pairing?
Sure. So, in the past, in both 2022 and 2023, Kristen paired with her mom, Steve. Um, However, this year, Kristen is partnering with her sister, Linda, instead. Kristen and Linda did compete as a pair in 2 Euro Jigsaw Jam competitions. They did place first in one of those and second in the other. The pair that beat them was Teresa and Marqueta. Um, but honestly, I would be pretty happy if I was only 19 seconds behind Teresa and Marqueta. Kristen, I could see Kristen like being unhappy with that loss, but I would be thrilled to be that close to Teresa and Marqueta.
I haven't looked to see why, but her pairs team is ranked 11th coming into this competition.
Hmm,
I suspect that maybe I don't have enough data on Linda. Obviously, I
probably.
have enough data on Kristen, but so
Right.
that is actually the same rank that her team has, the Arctic Puzzlers,
Hmm.
coming into this competition.
Yeah, so Linda on her own placed, let's see, fourth in Norwegian nationals, and last year she placed 105th in the
Mhm.
Worlds solo final. Now her team, we will see Kristen's mom, Siv, on the team, as well as Gote, who is Linda's husband.
Now, importantly, I have a picture with Steve.
Oh, I've got a picture with the whole family, Rob. Yes.
The last thing I have to say about Kristen is that her worst finish in my data is second. So,
Hmm.
I mean, if she's unhappy with second, and she's got a fair number of firsts tucked under her belt here recently, that is not a bad place to be.
I think she really wants that first when it matters, though. Yeah, and the her team, the Arctic Puzzlers, have been posting lots of times on myspeedpuzzling.com. They also competed in 2 speedpuzzling.com competitions, the American speed puzzling virtual competitions. They did win both of the ones they competed in. So I think they're practicing and getting faster.
One person on my list that you didn't mention, I don't think, is Ole Martin Olberg. Comes up in my list because his score is 1093.5, which is fifth overall. His fastest
Wow.
500 is 41.7, which is 48th overall, and his average pieces per minute is 10.2, which is 21st overall. So an interesting person in his own right. He's on a team with 2 other Olbergs and a Ness called Peace Off, and they're ranked 28th in my list. his score is another one that's based on a stronger than expected showing at the last Worlds and only having one competition since. But as
Hmm.
he's got some other stats that sort of back up his possibility there, so I just wanted to mention him on the way by.
Hmm.
All right, who's next?
Let's talk about some other family teams. Let's move to Netherlands and talk about some Dutch puzzlers. So we'll start with the family team, the C Notes. So these folks are new to Worlds, but we've seen a good amount of them in Euro Jigsaw Jams. Let's talk about Inga first. She has had many third place finishes in Euro Jigsaw Jam. She did have one first place where it was a case like we were just talking about, where she predicted what the puzzle was and practiced it 2 times beforehand. Her sister Ellen was also in that competition and was only 4 seconds behind her in second place. The next fastest puzzler in third place was 8 minutes behind them. It was 31:43 and 31:47, which I bet shows up in your numbers.
It does. With Inga, her score is 1046.1, which puts her at 119th overall. But her fastest 500 ever is 31.7 minutes, as you mentioned, which puts her second overall, which are telling two different stories, which I need to look into why that is. Um, I have a note here that says that she's been in a ton of the Eurojam and is building up her ranking as she's been going along. Finished first in the 15. Her average pieces per minute is 11.0, which is eighth overall in the world. So her score telling a different story than the rest of her stats.
Inga is puzzling in pairs with Jan, so her dad. Yeah, they've also puzzled together, I think, in some Euro Jigsaw Jam. She's been interviewed a few times. Another thing I really enjoy about watching the Euro Jigsaw Jams is that they do interviews after the first few finishers have finished, which is just nice to get to know the puzzlers a bit more.
I do love that.
Um, Something interesting about Inga is she says she has no opinion about nature puzzles, and she thinks she has a relative advantage on hard puzzles. She says there's less of a difference between how she does on hard puzzles and easy puzzles compared with others. Her sister Ellen will be puzzling in pairs with her husband Eric, great news, and Eric was interviewed once and said that as a pair, they did the 2023 pairs final puzzle and would have placed seventh. So they finished in under 2 hours. Their team together is called the Puzzle Patrol, and I've been repeatedly hearing that Dutch puzzlers are good with busy puzzles because they train regularly on these Jan van Hasteren busy images.
Mm-hmm.
This artist, Jan van Hasteren, is like the Dutch national puzzle artist, basically.
Yeah, and if I remember those, they are quite busy. So if
Mhm.
that's what they're training up on, I'm not surprised. I don't think I mentioned, but Inga and Jan's pairing is ranked 57th coming in. And the Puzzle Patrol, which is Eric, Ellen, Inga, and Jan, is 25th coming in. And the pair of Eric and Ellen is ranked 49th coming in. That's primarily on the basis of not having a lot of. I think Eric has exactly one individual competition, and Ellen has two. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of stuff that we don't know about them. So their sparse data doesn't show them to be a powerhouse per se, but it may be because the data is sparse that we don't know it.
One other Dutch puzzler to mention is Sandra Koenen. She placed 24th in Worlds at 2023, and one just interesting thing or way to recognize her. She is part of a team called De Puzzelposen. The Puzzle Pusses is the translation. They wear all black and cat ears, and so they do stand out in the dome.
They do. They stand out on the live stream as well. I could always see them even when they weren't the focus. I'm like, there's a bunch of cats in the background.
Yes, and this team is the reigning Dutch national champions. They've won 2022, 2023, and 2024. Again, always a Jan van Hasteren puzzle, which I don't think translates that well to Ravensburger.
I was going to say, if you're really good at that one kind of puzzle, I'm not sure what it says about other kinds of puzzles you might run into. Altogether, that team is ranked 36th coming into the competition, and Sandra's pairing with Maike Vanderbink is 28. I don't have a lot of stats on Sandra. Her fastest puzzle 500 puzzle time seems to be 31.8, which is really fast. Her average pieces per minute so far is 11.84, which is also really fast. Hard to say on the second one how sturdy that is with only 3 competitions registered, but that's where we are.
So, sticking with the family teams, let's move to Sweden. We've got 2 families to talk about there. The first is headed, I would say, the fastest puzzler on the team is someone we've seen quite a bit in Euro Jigsaw Jam, Tobias Premier, who competes in pairs with his sister, Sarah Christensen. Now, Tobias and Sarah were only 7 pieces behind me and Caron in the finals. So I'm just going to hope that Caron and I gave him some inspiration and like extra motivation to get like those 7 more pieces in and get that little glass cube.
Tobias is a bit of a conundrum for me, just because I see his score is 1,052, which puts him 94th overall, which sort of seems like it understates him a bit. That's being said, he started off really strong on the basis of, I think, the last Worlds competition, and the Euro Jigsaw Jam competitions have really eaten away at his overall score. He's performed well, but not quite as good as expected given his score. So that's sort of supported by his fastest 500 on record is 40.0, which is still 30th overall. And his average pieces per minute is 9.75, which is also 30th overall. So he comes off as a strong competitor, obviously in the elite section, but not as good as he seems to be gaining a reputation for, and seemingly rightfully so. The numbers just don't bear out where he's at.
Interesting. Yeah, I think maybe there's some inconsistency in performance there. So, for example, Tobias and Sarah won their pairs prelim last year at Worlds, Ludicrous Library, by about 3 minutes. So, very strong performance there. I'm sure they had done it before, right? Again, this year at Swedish Nationals, they won their prelim heat, an older Ravensburger puzzle, Music Room, by 4 minutes and placed 6th in the final. So, as a pair, they have a little history of doing super well in their prelim heat and then falling back a bit in the final.
Yeah, that's a great observation, actually. And the data sort of proves that out. Both of them have a very similar trajectory when it comes to how their scores have evolved over time, with them coming off strong off of the last Worlds and then sort of drifting down a ways, only to sort of recover and level off in the last few competitions. It's actually fairly rare to see 2 things in
Hmm.
sync like that, according to the data that I have. So I suspect you're right, is that they're suffering from some kind of inconsistency.
Now, as a pair, Tobias likes busy puzzles and Sarah likes sky and nature puzzles, so they have complementary strengths. And their team has 2 other family members, Tobias's wife, Anna Premier, and Sarah's 13-year-old daughter, Selma. And their team name is Piece of Cake. They did win the Swedish national championship and competed as the same family team at Worlds in 2023 and placed 32nd.
All right. Anybody else in Sweden?
A quick mention of another family team. Their team name is the creative name Holmgrens, which is their last name. The team was 13th at Swedish Nationals. However, 2 of the team members, Lydia and Tova, are the only ones competing in solo and pairs, and I think those are the 2 to take more seriously as competitors. Lydia Holmgren was second at 2024 Swedish Nationals. And with Tova, Lydia and Tova placed first in Swedish national pairs. They did the Eiffel Tower colorful Ravensburger 500 piece puzzle in 24:15.
The only other folks I have in Sweden is the Sorted Out team, who's, according to my data, ranked 15th. That's Frida Wessler,
Hmm.
Hanna Carlson, Rebecca Axelson, and Maya Willen. So I just wanted to mention them. I don't happen to have
Nice.
any particular data behind them, but they stood out as a team in the top 20. Where to next?
Let's move to Denmark.
A lot of Nordic teams being represented here. Is there a reason? I mean, I guess I could guess at it. Why we see a lot of kind of Nordic representation in the jigsaw puzzling world?
What people say is the colder and snowier it is, the more people do puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The Minnesota effect.
right, the Minnesota effect.
Fair enough. All right, Denmark.
All right, so let's talk about the Danish national champion first, Iris Bakker. So Iris won the Danish national championship. She was also first in her prelim round at the championships. And I think she's one to watch on like non-traditional art puzzles. One interesting fact about her is that she is an artist. So on Instagram, she has all these videos of blind drawing, which is not looking at her hand or the paper at all. It's just looking at her subject and doing portraits.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how it connects to her puzzle
I
strengths
was
and,
literally just
you
thinking
know,
that
right?
is that applicable skill? It's like sort in a weird way the opposite skill.
I wonder how if she's really good at like finding the piece and putting it in without like spending a whole lot of time looking at how she's putting it in, because she's got to know what she's doing with her pencil while not looking at her pencil. And I wonder if it translates to puzzle pieces.
Interestingly, Iris's data doesn't bear out her level of performance. She's got 10 events in the data. She's got a score of 1,034, which puts her 180th overall. Her fastest 500 piece puzzle is 44.0, which puts her 64th. And her average pieces per minute across all of those 10 competitions is 8.56, which is 92nd overall.
Yes, Iris was lower at Worlds last year, so she placed 115th at Worlds last year. And last year she paired with her same pairs partner as this year, Sophie Jewel Anderson. Sophie has been at Worlds for a few years now. So in 2022, she placed 27th at Worlds, and last year she placed 35th. So strong puzzler. And as a pair, they placed 31st in the finals round.
She's got a score of 1,071.5, which is 29th overall. Her fastest 500 is 40.9, which is 42nd overall. And her average pieces per minute is 9.82, which is 27th overall. So definitely a stronger contender there. And her combination, her and Iris's pair rank is 18th.
So I heard on your Jigsaw Jam that they live 5 minutes away from each other and they do get in a lot of practice together as a pair. And they have a special term for getting stuck, which is called puzzle stop. And when a puzzle stop happens, Iris will start singing Sia's Unstoppable to Sophie, and they have a rule that Sophie has to sing back.
All right. So be on the lookout for some singing going on that team.
Yeah.
I suppose if you don't see it, that means good things.
I mean, if I catch them on the live stream, there's definitely going to be some unstoppable in my Instagram story because
Uh-huh.
I think that's the cutest thing.
I love it when teams have tricks to help get each other out of a stuck place. Like it is a thing that at least on teams I've been involved in happens a fair amount. And so having a strategy or an approach to just jar somebody out of it can be really helpful because you can get stuck in a in like a mindset there And it's nice to have somebody ready to jerk you out and to be aware that when they're doing this thing, it's to help you come out of that situation. That helps you, I think, even better jump out of that situation. So it's nice that they've thought about that.
Iris also said that it's easier for her to stay focused in pairs than it is for her to stay focused solo. So,
I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of folks say that pairs are the way to kind of keep focus in that. If you don't
mm,
have somebody that you're competing with, your brain can go all kinds of directions. And so it's nice to have a sort of stabilizing other presence.
yeah, I prefer competing with others. So, yeah, I share that with Iris.
Hmm.
So now let's talk about their teammates. Their team name is Lean Puslerne, which translates to lightning puzzlers. And they got this team name by asking AI for ideas. And their teammates are Olivia Waltz and Astrid Rosen Abelgard. As a team, they won the Danish national championship. They also competed at the Swedish national championship and did beat a team that we were just talking about, Piece of Cake.
Hmm.
That is the team with Tobias and Sarah. Iris described their team puzzle process on your Jigsaw Jam. It sounded pretty cool. So Iris is the sorter, and she sends out small projects to all of her teammates. She said that she also saves small, easy projects for when people are getting stuck and need a way to get their minds back in it.
Yeah, I love that approach. I for a while was the primary sorter on my team and probably will go back to that here soon. And I did a very similar thing where it's like occasionally you need something like somebody's going to get stuck in a sort of like we were just talking about. Somebody's going to get stuck in a bad place, and it's nice to have a quick win. Um, you know, I'm also a believer that if you can put something together, you should put it together and not wait. So it's sort of it's sort of a balancing process for me, but it goes to show how every specialization has like unique thoughts that they put into the part of the world that they oversee when they're doing puzzling. If you're the kind of team who has a lot of specialists.
Mm. And so they do live 3 hours away from the other teammates. So as a team, they don't practice a lot together. Now, Astrid and Olivia will also be pairing together. Olivia was at Worlds last year. She placed 89th in the finals, and this will be Astrid's first Worlds. She has an almost 1 year old baby, and so she said that her training time right now is limited to baby nap time.
Hard to come by sometimes. The Astrid and Olivia, their pair is ranked at 28th, and the entire team is ranked at ninth coming in. I
Mm,
think Olivia and Astrid, like their scores are solid. Again, like high performing solid. I don't want to underplay it, but nothing really stands out, with the exception of Astrid over the last five events that I have on record. Was her average pieces per minute was 9.79, which puts her 29th overall, which actually is much stronger than the rest of the numbers that I have on her would suggest. So I think that that suggests that she's got some solid power there.
yeah, I think this is definitely the strongest team that Denmark can really put together. Um, Olivia and Astrid placed first at Danish nationals in the pairs competition, and they placed second as a pair at Swedish nationals. So they're performing in that part of Europe, right at the top.
All right, where to next?
Well, I think this is relatively close to that part of the world. Let's go to Finland.
Let's go to Finland.
Again, let's start with the national champion, the Finnish national champion from 2024, Amelia Korhonen. Amelia placed 70th at 2023 Worlds, and Amelia is repeating her pairs partnership with another Amelia, Amelia Lieberman, who placed 82nd. at Worlds in 2023 and is very well known on YouTube for her puzzle YouTube. As a pair at Worlds last year, they took 26th place. And we were actually already talking about Amelia and her ability to predict puzzles
That's right.
that are going to come up.
Yeah, Amelia Lieberman's done 17 different competitions in my data. I mean, obviously she's done more than that, but those are the ones where she's done a 500 piece puzzle as a solo. Her score is 1033.1, which puts her 186th overall, but she has the 14th fastest 500 piece puzzle ever at 37 minutes flat. And her average pieces per minute is 8.56, which puts her about 89th. Amelia Korhonen, on the other hand, has 13 events, and her score is 1020.7, which puts her 258th. Her fastest 500 is 41 minutes flat, which is 43rd overall, and her average pieces per minute is 8.56, which ties her with Amelia Lieberman in terms of overall time on that. As a pair, they're ranked 38th coming into this competition.
And they were the 2024 Finnish pairs champions together. But they don't get too much practice time together as they live about 5 hours away from each other.
Mm.
And then another Finnish puzzler to watch out for will be new to Worlds this year, Hanna Lehikoinen. She only just started speed puzzling this year and really burst onto the scene in the first Euro Jigsaw Jam, taking first place ahead of Chiara Del Antonio.
That's making a statement.
Yeah. She is active on Instagram and has plenty of documented fast times there as well. She is also training hard. So I think it's My Puzzle Tracker produces monthly summaries for people. And in August, she posted that she did 93 puzzles,
Whoa.
mostly 500 piece Ravensburger puzzles.
Dang. Well, that's sort of borne out by the data in a weird sort of way, in that she has, if she's only just begun doing puzzle competitions, she's already done 11 just of the kinds that I'm tracking in this data. She comes off with a score of 1045.1, which puts her 128th in the world. Her fastest 500 is 41.0, which is 43rd in the world. And her average pieces per minute, actually, that can't be right. I don't know what her average pieces per minute. I'll have to go back and look that up. So definitely somebody who's put in a lot of reps, but not seeing the, well, let me phrase this differently. She's doing well, but she's doing well in competitions with small amounts of people in them, and it's hard, according to the system that I'm using, to make a lot of points all at once in such a thing. So when she competes in a bigger field like Worlds, I expect we'll see her score move up rather rapidly.
Cool. So Hannah prefers illustrations, dislikes photographs, and her favorite brand is Ravensburger. Hannah will be pairing with her 10-year-old daughter
Wow.
for Worlds, but she will be on a team with Amelia Lieberman.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia Korhonen is on a different team of international puzzlers.
That's right. So Amelia Korhonen, I actually don't have her team listed here. But Amelia Lieberman's team, I also a contender for one of my favorite team names. It's Not So Peaceful, in a world of team names focused around peace, like Peace Talks, but also, give peace a chance, and like those sorts of themes. It's taking a much more aggressive stance. I like that they've used the adjective version, so it's not -so-peaceful, like the not so peaceful puzzlers. So I appreciate the sort of forward leaning stance on aggressiveness there. They are ranked 34th coming into this competition.
Yeah, that's interesting because one thing that I love about Amelia Lieberman's YouTube is that she tells it like it is, even when it's not pretty. And that includes when she's like self-reflecting on her own puzzling. Like she's, I think, pretty brutal on herself.
Is that right?
And
I've
yeah.
I've seen, I think, one interview, because I've been working my way through the Euro Jigsaw Jam but I'm only, I think, through the second one so far. And I saw her talk on the second one, and she definitely had a pragmatic feel about
Yeah, she brings a lot from sports psychology to the world of puzzling, and she attributes that to her experience being on the Finnish national ultimate frisbee team.
her. All
So
right.
as a you know teenager, she was on the national team for ultimate frisbee.
Interesting. Another place where
Yeah.
I'm like, how does that skill transfer? At least the psychology, I think we talked about last time, being used to being in competitions actually could be a good head start just in general. Anybody else in Finland?
Not on my list.
Where are we going to next?
All right, so Hana is new to Worlds this year. Now, the next country we'll talk about has several new to Worlds puzzlers who we all will definitely want to watch. Poland.
All right, who we got from Poland?
Let's see. I guess we can start with Christian Niedziela. Christian has been active on Instagram for some time. He's been posting lots of times in the 30s on previous competition puzzles.
Wow.
He's participated in 3 Euro Jigsaw Jams so far. His first was not super strong. He placed 10th. I mean, that's pretty good for a first debut on the international stage.
Especially given how that particular competition can stack up. It tends to draw a lot of the time. It tends to draw some pretty decent puzzlers. So 10th in that competition is not, I think, I think is impressive.
Right. I think he was disappointed by his performance in that one. He's participated a couple times since then. I think in his most recent, I want to say he placed second, but I'm not positive about that. So
Mm.
I think, do you have it?
I don't. I only have the one
Ah,
competition score, so I don't have
oh,
a
okay.
basis to talk about him beyond just the one thing that you've already mentioned. Unfortunately,
All right. Well, I think he's been doing a bit better since that first one, and one to watch. His Paris partner is Justina Sokołowska, who I'm told is more of a casual puzzler.
hmm. All right.
Also from Poland, we have Wiktor Kopczak, also new to Worlds, and very, I would say, pretty active in the Euro Jigsaw Jams. Do you have more data on him than on Christian?
I've seen him in 5 events so far. He's got a score of 1049.5, which puts him 107th overall, but I think he's underrated. So this is another place where he's playing in a relatively small pool here, like a deep pool, but small pool, right? So he
Hmm.
doesn't have a lot, he hasn't competed in a lot of things that would drive his score upwards. So I think that this is another person for whom, based on the scoring that we're seeing in the Euro Jigsaw Jam, is likely to see his score jump pretty rapidly when he competes in a larger body of competition.
Right. And he has one second place finish in Euro Jigsaw Jam 16, as well as a first place in the most recent one at this point, Euro Jigsaw Jam 20.
His fastest 500, I forgot to mention, is 37.6, which puts him 18th overall. And his average pieces per minute are 11.17, which puts him fourth overall. So another reason to believe that once he's in a bigger pool, we'll see his score jump quite a bit.
He says that he is good with busy images and details. He hates doing sky and large patches of color. And one thing that the Euro Jigsaw Jam hosts have noted is how fast his hands move. It's been compared to Alejandro's hands, and Victor said that his sister says his hands look like flies,
Gross, but cool.
and that uh, when he came upon speed puzzling, he watched Alejandro and was like, watched his hands move and thought, I can do that.
I'm glad somebody did, because been watching Alejandro's hands for the last couple of years and being like, I wish I could do even close to that. Like it's it comes across as some things don't, but on camera it comes across as fast as it probably is in real life. You can just see him. He has such a light touch. I don't know if Victor also has it, but
Mm,
like the ability to not have to like hold tightly to anything, but just hold it with the least amount of energy possible to hold on to something. And similarly, placing things like Alejandro is really good at sort of setting things and seeing if they go there and pulling it off rather than actually trying to put it in place to pull it out. So if Victor can replicate any of that, he's in a good place.
Yeah, so you wondered whether his hands were as, I guess, graceful as Alejandro's. Not yet.
All
So
right.
he's got the speed, but he says that his hands are still clumsy, especially at the beginning flip, and that his Paris partner is a faster flipper than he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just watching Alejandro flip, and he is definitely he's got the technique down. It seems so. If Victor's already identified that that's his goal, and he's already gotten part of the way there, he's going to be something to watch. I mean, everything already points out to him being something to watch. So I'm excited to see what he looks like on a world stage.
Some fun facts about Victor are that he works in IT and has never drunk coffee
Yeah,
in his life.
I think I've only had coffee twice, so he's in good company.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about Victor's Paris partner, Natalia Tesek. Um, he said that together they recently did the USA JPA Nationals puzzle, Sweet Street, the 1,000 piece, and based on their time, they would have won. However, he also shared that they did Boston 2189 together and finished in 2 hours 28 seconds. So they would have edged out me and Caron for 10th.
Yeah, I think it is great that people are attempting things and saying that they are doing well in them. I think, not surprisingly, you want to take that with a grain of caution, right? Is that it is great that you can do something and be world class at it. It is harder to do three things and be world class at it, and it is harder to do that over the course of years. So if you've got one puzzle that you were able to knock out in world record time, that says something important about you, but it may not be the same thing as saying that you were in the top five competitions in a row, right? So we really need to see more. Again, I expect great things based on the scoring that we're seeing, but we do need to see more before we can put a lot of faith, I feel like, in what those numbers actually mean.
Right. And I think it definitely is different in a particular place at a particular time. So, like lighting, you were there, Rob. The lighting at our nationals was not the best. Not sure how much it played into Sweet Street's times, but definitely on some of the other puzzles, it really affected, I think, times. And we've been seeing much faster times on some of the 500 piece puzzles under better lighting
Yeah,
conditions.
you're not wrong. Like a venue's lighting can make or break your ability to move fast on a puzzle just because it's harder to discern the clean gradients you might see from one thing to another. Dark spots look really dark and maybe all blend in together. And I think that another thing that plays into how competitors do is that it's one thing to do it at home, and I don't know if they were doing their puzzles at home in the comfort of a space that you're familiar with, and maybe you can control not just the lighting but the sound and everything, and doing it in front of 200 other people or 200 other pairs who are all in the same room as you, who maybe you can hear how they're doing, you can hear how they're like the crowd is reacting to other things. There are cameras, there are announcers. I don't know that any of those things will bother this particular pair, but those are things that can get in your head that don't get in your head when you're doing it at home.
Right. And it's interesting because I think that depending on the person, that atmosphere can boost them and make
Absolutely.
them even faster. But also for other people, it is more of a distraction that makes it harder to perform.
Right. I've worked on teams where some folks will get sort of worn down by the constant stream of activity going on and, having to tune out people who are talking right next to you. But if you're the right kind of person, it is definitely energizing to be in a fun atmosphere where you're competing, doing something that you really enjoy against other, competent competitors. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see which direction they go.
And then, so I was chatting a little bit with Victor on Instagram. I asked him because he said in a Your Jigsaw Jam, I quote, this year in Spain, there will be many surprises from Poland. And so I had to check my list with him and ask, who are we going to be surprised by if you don't mind ruining the surprise?
And do you have secret things you're going to share?
Oh, yeah. He told me about the Polish urban legend puzzler
Oh, yeah, here we go. You teased this
who
earlier.
he said that she beat us all in March at a competition hosted by Casterland. But
Okay.
he didn't give me a name. He said he wasn't sure if she wanted to keep that private. But I looked on Casterland's Instagram. I think I found her,
Mm-hmm.
Veronica Hooptas.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know. Haven't confirmed that. So let me know,
Veronica's
Victor.
Veronica's not on my list anywhere, so that's interesting.
Yes. So she won a Casterland sponsored competition in Krakow, Poland in March, doing a 1,000 piece art gallery image in 202.
Well, we've talked about this before, but I'm always excited when somebody new comes onto the scene unexpected. So if this is that moment, great. Although I feel like a lot of the people that we're seeing around here, like Victor himself, is one of those possible moments. Like if you're not following in real detail a lot of the
Mm.
goings on in the worlds of jigsaw puzzling, some of these people are going to spring out and surprise you.
Yeah. So hopefully we can help a little with that.
That's right. You won't be surprised.
All right. So let's talk about Hungarian puzzlers next. Now, Mercedes Artofer really puts Hungary on the map for puzzling. She's very consistent. Across last year at Worlds, she placed first in her prelim heat, second in the semifinal, and fifth in the final. She pairs with Vanda Varga, who, and Vanda, I think on her own, I think she's stronger as a pair. And as a pair, they placed fourth in their prelim heat and fourth in the finals last year.
Yeah, I have them ranked as 14th in the pairs for this time around. Both Mercedes and Vonda have only competed in 3 competitions on record, so I don't have a ton of data about them. I do have that in the competitions that I currently have, Mercedes was at 11.5 pieces per minute, which puts her squarely in the top, I'm going to say 10 ish folks. So, as you said, somebody to watch.
And this year they're switching up their team, really bringing on some faster Hungarians, the Brigidas.
Oh yeah, the Brigidas.
Brigida Winkler, who placed 14th at Worlds in 2023 and 11th at Worlds in 2022. Brigida Poza, who was not at Worlds last year but placed 7th at Worlds in 2022.
Yeah, Brigida Winkler has 5 competitions in my data. Her score is 1101.5, which is second overall. This is again due
Wow.
to a better than expected showing in a world competition, and then not much else after that.
Mm.
Her fastest 500, to give us some scale, is 40.7, which is 40th overall, and her average pieces per minute is 10.76, which puts her 10th overall.
And I'm not sure what their team name is, but I think I have it somewhere else.
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed.
The Brigida's pairs is ranked 6th in my
Wow.
list, and their team Need for Speed is ranked 4th.
Wow.
Yeah, so some of that's going to be based on that score of Brigida Winkler's being a little
Ah,
higher than you might
okay.
expect.
All right. One other Hungarian to watch is Victoria Guyer. She is also new to Worlds this year, and she has a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
You might know of her even if you don't know her because of her viral video on which has 22 million views on Instagram. How not to start a puzzle competition. So this video is from a Hungarian competition that she ended up placing fifth in, where she tried to open up a bag, which I
Oh
think,
yeah,
yes, yeah, right? Now you know,
I
Rob.
do. Yeah, yeah.
And
Finish what
yeah,
you're saying though.
so she tried opening up a bag and it had extra air in it and just popped and sprayed pieces like 5 feet. And then she just looks up at the camera. And I think, this is why it went viral is like the face that she makes, which is just like exactly how you would feel in that situation. And then looks down at her puzzle and starts puzzling.
And she came back and did how well?
She came in fifth.
Good for her. That's a not just a disaster of having to go find all the pieces and bring them back together, but that's a tough mental place to start from too. So well done.
Yeah, she's been active in the Euro Jigsaw Jams, as has her Pierce partner, Tekla Rose. And her team, I like her team's name, which is Hungary for Puzzles.
I have Vicky's been in 7 events that I've seen. Her score is 1,035.5, which puts her 176th overall. Her fastest 500 is 42.7, which is 55th. And her average pieces per minute is 9.03, which is 63rd overall. The pairs combination of Vicky and Tekla is coming in ranked 99 in my list.
All right, so let's highlight a few others to watch. So let's next talk about Mariana Menges, who is the 2023 and 2024 Portuguese national champion. She has been to Worlds for a few years now. She placed 49th in the solo final in 2022 and 132nd in 2023. However, based on some recent Euro Jigsaw Jam results, I think she is improving. Um, she is frequently, I would say, in the top 10 or so. Pretty frequently in the top
Yeah,
10.
she's up and down, which makes the score I have for her like a little unsettled. She's been in 13 competitions that I've seen, and her score is 1,044.6, which puts her 131st. That being said, her fastest 500 is 36.7, which is 13th. And her average pieces per minute is 9.23, which is 51st. So, sort of an inconsistent story being told by the data here.
And a fun fact about Mariana is that she always takes her shoes off to puzzle. She says, they just constrain my feet and don't allow me to concentrate so well. So if you see the puzzler taking off their shoes, it might be Mariana or it might be someone else who's picked up on that tip.
I can't tell if that's a thing we would want to encourage or not.
And Mariana is pairing with her partner from the Portuguese Pairs Championship, Joao Santos Faria, who individually placed fourth at Portuguese Nationals in both 2023 and 2024.
Their pair comes ranked 35 overall.
So moving on to a few German puzzlers. One to watch that might not be on your radar is Clara Vesselkamp, who placed second in the Danish National Championship this year and was first in her prelim round by 4 minutes, specifically doing the Demelsa Hotten Rabbit Recital 500 piece Ravensburger in 52:22, which having done that puzzle, I was very impressed by. Then we've also got Kathi Reiner from Germany.
For a second there, I thought you were just going to skip right over her.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Yeah, Kati has been more quiet on Instagram lately. She organized a German competition this past year and recently, actually just this past weekend, placed third in Euro Jigsaw Jam number 20. So her first Euro Jigsaw Jam. And this year she'll be pairing with Kiara. I know that she and Kiara have done some practicing together. And her team will be the same as last year. So this is a team with Emilia Korhonen from Finland, SJ Bodal from Britain, And instead of Alma Bell as their fourth teammate this year, Kati's sister, Christina, will be joining them. And Kati's sister, Christina, has the Instagram handle Kati Puzzle Sister.
Oh, I love those.
And then Christina's boyfriend has like
Yes,
Kati's
I remember
sister.
this. It's
Yeah.
a whole ecosystem of people who are based
Yes.
around Kati. I love that.
Okay. So it's Kati Puzzle's sister. Apparently, there's also a Kati Puzzle's mother and Kati Puzzle's
Yes,
sister boyfriend.
yes. I remember finding
Yeah.
them all for some reason last year.
Yeah. So Kati Puzzle's sister is going to be coming to Worlds this year. Welcome, Christina.
Nice. So a couple of things here. Kati's only got 3 events in my data, so it's hard to kind of make any predictions. That being said, her pieces per minute so far are 12.2 on average, which puts her 5th overall, and her maximum or her fastest 500 piece puzzle is 33.9. I don't have which place that puts her in, but it's top 15 easily. You mentioned Chiara along the way, and just to fill that out, it's Chiara Del Antonio, because I don't think we've talked about her quite yet.
Nope,
I
not yet.
suspect she's on your list, but the pair of them are ranked 4th for pairs, and the
Hmm.
team is ranked 26th. And this is where Amelia Korhonen comes back into the picture.
Right. Okay. So that is the team ranked 26.
Right.
Because Chiara is on a different team of
Correct.
Italian puzzlers. I feel like I'm going to mess this up. It's Jig Spaghetti.
Yes. That's how I
You
would
want to
do it.
try it, right?
No, jig
Okay.
spaghetti. It's jig and then spaghetti and at the very end. So yeah.
Okay. Jig Spaghetti.
hmm So before we jump to the rest of Chiara, I'm not sure if that was where you're going. I have a couple other folks in Germany.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
There is Laura Friedrich and Lisa Marie Friedrich. They show up on my list as a high ranked pairs puzzle. So as 24th. And then their team, which has Alma Bell on it, is ranked 10th.
Mm.
All right. Did you want to go to Chiara next?
Sure. So Kiara is a good friend of US puzzlers, having come to US Nationals this past year. Fun fact about Kiara is that she has a cat named Simba who likes to sit on her puzzles. And so when she's competing in these online Euro Jigsaw jams, which she's been doing a lot of, she keeps her cats behind a door in another room. And of all the colors, Kiara says she's the weakest at blue, except except for sky.
Okay.
So yeah,
I suppose that's
Kiara,
probably true of me as well. Is that true? No, I think I'm weaker in the red spectrum.
I hate red.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I hate red.
Like red stands out if that's the only thing, but if you've got red and some adjacent colors, like red gradient stuff, I'm not good in that area.
Yeah, when one of the questions I asked Caron in person, like the first time we met, was after we had agreed to pair together, was like, so what's your go-to first color? Caron was like, I think red. And I was like, red?
I think red can be great because it stands out. If you've got something that is red, it's easy to find. If you've got a lot of red stuff, that's a different story to me.
Yeah, I think with red, like as long as it's bright red, it's fine. But it's when it gets into like the browny red that
Mm.
for me, it's just like, yuck.
Well, Kiara has got 18 events in my data. And she is another one where I think the numbers don't quite live up to her performance. Her score is 1,062.8, which puts her 56th overall. Her fastest 500 is 39.1, which puts her 26th overall. And her average PPM, her pieces per minute, sorry, is 10.67, which is 11th overall. I think her score suffers from she had a couple of stumbles in the middle of the Euro Jigsaw Jam, which dropped her scores a bit. So I think that's where a little bit of inconsistency is making her scoring not show up as strong as would normally be. And then Jig Spaghetti is ranked 15th for teams.
Okay. And of course, Kiara has placed in the top 10 in the finals, both in 2022 and last year, 2023. So she is one to watch for sure.
Where are we going next?
Let's stick with Europe for now. So, one other person I wanted to mention was Elena Kovacevic from Croatia. Elena is a Twitch streamer known as Metro Liha, which, oh my goodness, this is such an impressive feat that was very inspiring to me. Elena did Caron Puzzle's 3,000 piece puzzle in one stream in 22 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And spent about 20 hours of that puzzling. So, in about 20 hours straight.
Wow, that is an impressive feat of endurance, if nothing else.
Yeah. Elena has also kind of regularly posts 35 to 45-minute times on 500 piece Ravensburgers. And on Twitch has raced Kyle Cusson, who's also on Twitch 2 times, and did win both of those races.
All right. Well, I have no data on Elena because, as far as I know, she hasn't entered any competitions, or at least no 500 individual competitions. So I don't have anything to say about her.
Yeah. And Elena will be pairing with another Twitch streamer, Beata Libon from Poland. And Elena attributed going to Worlds to like encouragement from Beata and another famous Twitch streamer, Jima. So let's get away from Europe
Oh, thank goodness.
and maybe let's talk about some Australian puzzlers next.
Australia. Yeah. I love that the Australians are so visible at a competition. Like I don't know if they are all wearing the green uniform. But I'm always like, there's the Australian team.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you want to talk to in Australia?
Well, we could talk about ones who've been to Worlds before. So, Melissa Townsend is
Mhm.
the 2023 Australian Championship. And last year at Worlds, she was there. She placed 32nd. Then we've got Katrina Coleman,
Mhm.
the 2022 Australian National Champion. She placed 20th at Worlds last year. And we've got both of their pairs partners as well. So Melissa will be pairing with Hannah Farthing, who I don't have notes on, but Hannah I think was in the top 10 at
Mhm.
Australian Nationals. And Katrina will be pairing with Rihanna Erickson, who was 7th in Nationals in 2023.
Yeah, so I don't have much data on Rihanna. Melissa, Hannah, and Katrina, or all three have only competed in 3 events. So the data I have is a little sparse, but Katrina comes out top in average pieces per minute at 10.18, followed by Hannah at 9.68, followed by Melissa
Hmm.
at 9.08. Most impressive is Katrina's fastest time of 39.8 minutes. So there's some speediness going on there for sure. So as a pair, Melissa and Hannah are ranked 17th. I actually don't have Katrina and Rihanna. Probably they weren't in the top 20, 25. And then the
Mhm.
Aussie All Stars, the team comprised of all 4 of those, is ranked 12th.
Yeah, I thought the Aussie All Stars would be one to watch. One other Australian to watch who is competing for Malaysia, Grace Tam. She placed second in Australian Nationals in 2023 and is a longtime kind of puzzlegram puzzler. Uh, Puzzled me.
Got it. Yeah, I scrambled at the last minute when I saw her name pop up in your notes for the podcast, but I did not find her in the data anywhere.
Yeah, I think she's pretty, not one of the like hardcore speed puzzlers, but does a lot of puzzles.
All right, where to next? I assume we still got more.
So we could talk about Canada, different continent now. And I got to recently meet some Canadian puzzlers at Puzzle Parley. Yeah. So I got to meet Devin Donaldson, Caitlin McCluskey,
Hmm.
and Sandy. I got to meet them at Puzzle Parley, the three of them, their fourth teammate. I'm not sure why their fourth teammate wasn't there, but they were so friendly. They let me interrupt them in their puzzling, their team practice, basically. It was the last one of the night, and they were kind of puzzled out at that point, but I thought it was just so nice that they were like, no, come chat. Instead of being like, we have to focus. This is our team practice.
Yeah, the data that I have for them that I think is of note is that Devin is paired with Sophie Helg, and they're ranked 19th in pairs. And possibly my favorite team name of all time is the Canadian team with Devin, Sophie, Caitlin, and Sandy. Caitlin Mikulski, yeah, which is the A team, but A spelled like Canadian EH. So any fan of the United States 80s TV may resonate with. I love that they took 80s nostalgia and added a Canadian twist to it. They're ranked 14th in my list.
I honestly did not get their team name until you said it out loud. I think that pretty much wraps up who we wanted to talk about, except for the Russian puzzlers who may or may not show up. So there is a Siberian team that's registered
Literally called the Siberian team.
called the Siberian team. Now, if you go back in World's history, 2019 Worlds, a Siberian team won. Two of the five original members of that team are part of the 2024 Siberian team. I don't think they're the strongest of the puzzlers. So by the 2019 solo rankings, Valentina Babarchenkova and Natalia Komarova were the third and fourth fastest puzzlers on the team. But their performance as a team at 2019 Worlds was impressive. They completed two 1,000 piece puzzles and two 1,500 piece puzzles in 4 hours 11 minutes.
Well, yeah, there's not much in the data about any of them. I think only Natalia and Valentina have any competitions at one each. Overall, the team's ranked 63rd.
Another Russian puzzler who's registered is Lena Ivanova. So back in 2019, she went to Spain for Spanish nationals and won with a sub 40 time. Lena also won Spanish pairs nationals in 2019. And the rumors that the Russian Instagram media are putting out are that she is the champion of Moscow and the vice champion of Russia. She is not currently registered for teams, but is signed up for peers.
Vice champion.
Vice champion.
All right. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah.
I want more official title sounds like that.
Yeah.
Chief Admiral Puzzler.
Yeah. How about Vice Champion Sarah?
Yep, love it.
We'll see if the Russians show up. I've been trying to track down some info on them and not getting clear answers and getting we'll see about the visas. So
a lot of mystery coming out of that side of the world. I think that covers the world as we know it for the world's competition. Obviously, there are a lot of people we didn't talk about in a lot of countries out there, but those are the folks who are either individually pairs or teams in the top 20 of those areas, or otherwise were worth a mention on the way by, worth looking out. So if you want to find some interesting people to watch, look for folks in cat ears, for example. Now you'll know who they are.
Or with their shoes off.
Or with their shoes off, or in green Aussie t-shirts. Or they're not even t-shirts, but green Aussie shirts. So, do you want to do some predictions?
I feel like we could do it like rapid fire. I don't know.
All depends on how much love you want to give predictions.
Let's go for it.
Where do you want to start with predictions?
I want to start with individual prelim A.
Individual prelim A. All right, we're going by group. Let's do it.
I'll go first on this one. 1, Kristen Tuve. from Norway. 2, Jean Reuter, USA. 3, Tobias Premier, Sweden. 4, Yvonne Foyt, USA. 5, Mari Black, USA.
Interesting.
Your turn.
All right, we doing top 5? Is that what we're doing?
Unless you want to go to 3 at this point. I
No, no,
could
no.
go to 3 on the
We'll do top
on the
5. And here's what I'm going to do
okay.
because I think that you will enjoy this. Is I'm going to read the top 5 with all the in the individuals are based 100% on the score. So with all of the flaws that we've seen in my
Mm,
scoring system, I'm going to stick with the top 5 as predicted by the scores so that when we come back and look at this after the worlds are over, you can point and laugh at some of these things. But here's who I've got for top 5. So Kristen number 1, Jean number 2, Mari number 3, Lisa Marie
mm.
Frederick, and then Andrea
Ooh.
Kyle.
Hmm.
That being said, we've talked about folks like Tobias, who is, I think, underrated and is likely to be a standout performer counter to what the data is currently showing.
All right. I like your Lisa.
Just because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
All right. Round B.
All right. Your turn first on this one.
All right. Again, sticking.
Oh, actually, wait. I have something to say about this.
Yes, do.
So, actually, two things. I wanted to say this before the rankings um, actually started, which
Okay.
is if you're puzzling this year, you might want to stop listening now and not hear our predictions
Oh, that's a great
because
point.
I don't know how I would have felt. For example, during the pairs final, grinding out that very difficult puzzle, knowing, for example, that I was predicted to finish, not in the top 10, basically, because we're not going farther than the top 10.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think it is worth quadrupling down at this point on the fact that we're having a little fun here. We're taking some guesses based on a lot of things that we could not possibly know about. As I pointed out, my data's got some serious concerns with it, but I'm going to roll with it anyway. None of this is meant to be predictive, except that it's fun to decide who we think might have a chance based on various things. So I agree. If you're the kind of person for whom this kind of fun chatter is likely to get in your head, this may be the time to tune out.
Right. And I think like the goal of this podcast is really to introduce the audience to the puzzlers more than like the puzzlers to themselves. So, uh, this part I think is really intended for the people who will be watching, like in prelim round A, like who am I watching and so on. Who am I keeping an eye out for? Not so much intended for the puzzlers. Now, the second thing I wanted to say, and this is more for people who might be puzzling this year,
Who've already tuned out.
if you're still here, I just want to validate that if you're in individual prelim round B or individual prelim round E, objectively, from my opinion, you do have the toughest competition. So everyone is probably saying, like, oh, I'm up against so many fast puzzlers. If you're in B or E, I agree with you. I wouldn't want to be puzzling in your rounds either. And teams C, whoa, like team C prelim is so stacked. It's going to be the one to watch. I will definitely be waking up at 6:30 Eastern time to watch that one because I think it's going to be almost as exciting as the final.
Yeah, there's definitely some prelims, as you said. They're definitely the prelims are going to be nail biters, much less the actual final competitions. All right, let's move on
You
to
for
B. All right, so you're going to be amused by this because again, I'm just going by the numbers. Um, I have Andrea Peng as number 1, Sandra Koenen for number 2 from the Netherlands, Melissa Townsend as 3, Ana Gil Luciano as 4 from Spain, and Hannah Farthing as 5 from Australia. Now I've got some caveats, but I think you're probably going to say them all, so I'll let you do your predictions next.
All right. So first, I've got Hanale Koinen from Finland. 2, Andrea Peng, USA. 3, Veronika Huptas from Poland, the urban legend of Poland, or who I think that might be. Try without confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Four, Alice Rowe, USA. Five, Sarah Schuler, USA.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So to me, Alice and Sarah, for various reasons, are underrated in the data. And then I also have Emma Pan as I think a little underrated in the
Hmm.
data.
Yeah, like I said, B, tough round.
It is. All right. Round C, your turn.
All right. One, Teresa
Mhm.
Koptikova, Czech Republic. Two, Kati Reiner, Germany. Three, Christian Nigela, Poland. Four, Sophie Joel Anderson, Denmark. Five, Erika Skarufske, Lithuania.
All right. I think we got 3 out of 5 overlapped here. So I have Kati as number 1, Erica as number 2, Camille Auen from France as number 3, Nora Winkler from Hungary as number 4, and then Teresa as number 5.
All right.
D.
D, you first.
D. All right. So Ole Martin Olberg, Adam
Mm,
Suron, Mercedes Arthhofer, Katrina Coleman. 5 is Lauren Kotz.
wow. So D, I had one, Mercedes Artover, Hungary. Two, Chiara Dell'Antonio, Italy. Three, Lauren Kotz, USA. And then four and five are both Czech Republic puzzlers. Katerina Klinkova, four. Yana Androskova, five.
Interesting. Round E.
Think it's my turn
Oh, thank
first.
goodness.
Another
Yeah.
tough one. One, Laura Aizpurua de Arteche, Spain. Two, Lena Ivanova, the quote unquote international puzzler. Three, Markita Frazlarova, Czech Republic. Four, Victor Koprak, Poland. Five, Hazela Ranstoro, Spain.
Okay. So we're not too disaligned there. I've got Laura from Spain, Marqueta from the Czech Republic, and Yzela from Spain. Then I've got Linka Misikova from Slovakia, Laura Friedrich
Hmm.
from Germany as the top 5. But
Hmm.
I think, you know, as we talked about, Victor's underrepresented. And then we've got Tiffany Medeiros and Soraya from Spain as
Hmm.
interesting fast follows.
Right. Yes. He is a tough round to be in. All right. Wrapping it up with F. Your turn to go
Okay.
first.
Again, going just by what the scoring says, because this one's going to, I think this is sort of laugh out loud funny a little bit. Not because number 1 is Brigitte, but because number 2, Brigitte Winkler. Number 2 is Alejandro, which I think in reality will probably play itself in the reverse. Lisa Cruz from France, Kelly Walter from the US, and Samilia Ballier looks like from France.
I had one, Alejandro Clemente Leon, Spain. Two, Brigitte Winkler, Hungary. Three, Kelly Walter, USA. Four, Clara Vesselkamp, Germany. Five, Amelia Lieberman, Finland.
Interesting.
And Amelia got in the top five here because I think she's going to know and have practiced the puzzle.
Oh, yeah. I didn't account for magic, so it's something that I can't put in my stats. All right. So, how do you see this all playing out then?
All right. So, yes, let's skip the semifinals and go right to the finals. And we're going to do our top 10.
Oh, this is going to be embarrassing for me, but you go.
All right. So, in the finals, I am putting my money on Kristen this year. I've got Kristen for the win, Alejandro second, three, Mercedes, four, Hannah L, five, Teresa, six, Andrea Peng, seven, Victor, eight, Markita, nine, Alice Rowe from USA, 10, staying in the top 10 for the third year running, Kiara.
Interesting. All right. My numbers are a bit of a disaster, admittedly, here. But I'm just going to read them. Let's go for it. Andrea Peng, Kati Reiner, Erika Skibetsky, Sandra Kunin, Brigitte Winkler, Laura Aispura Deartik, Alejandro, Marqueta, Melissa Townsend, Anna Gil Luciano.
Hmm. Okay.
So Clearly missing from there, Kristen,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
And Alice Rowe, I think, is probably
Mm.
going to end up in the top 10. So more for amusement than anything else. That is the order that these numbers have predicted.
All
Or
right.
importantly, this is the score they're coming in with. It's less of a prediction and more this is what their scores are. But I'm going to treat it like a prediction, and I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
I'm going to treat it like a
Yeah,
prediction
you are.
too, so we can compare later. And for the sake of documentation, you can start putting your numbers in so that I can go back. It'll just be easier to write this all down when I figure out a points system.
All right. What do you want to do with pairs?
All right, let's start with pairs prelim A. I'll go first. Pairs prelim A, 1, Kelly Walter and Andrea Peng, USA. 2, Sarah Schuler and Lauren Kotz, USA. 3, Kristen Tuve and Linda Bremnes Anderson, Norway. 4, Las Anas, Spain. 5, the Brigidas, Hungary.
Okay. Well, we're not so far off this time around. So I've got number 1, Kelly and Andrea. Number 2, Sarah and Lauren. Number 3, the Brigitas. Number 4,
Mm,
Kristen and Linda. And then number 5,
mhm.
Kat Dilks and Gail McCormick. And then number 6
Nice.
is the Annas, just for completion.
All right.
Round B. So I have Teresa Koptikova and Marketa Frieslerova, Karen Cavett and Tiffany Medeiros, Becca Taylor and Alice Rowe, Soraya Carriol and Gabrielle Turku, and Melissa Townsend and Hannah Farthing.
Nice. I actually want to revise mine right
No,
now.
you can't go with what you
Yeah.
had.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I can't change it after
That's
hearing
not.
yours. Darn it.
You got to save me some
Okay.
embarrassment.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, fair enough. All right. So 1, Teresa and Markita. 2, the
Mm,
Amelias, uh, from Finland, again, because I believe they'll have done
magic.
the
Yeah.
puzzle. Magic. 3, Soraya and Gabi. 4, Karen and Tiffany. 5, Eric Gradenus and Ellen Sinod.
Interesting. So, what would you have swapped if you had that opportunity?
I felt like I made a mistake leaving off Becca and Alice.
Mm-hmm. Your turn for round C.
All right. This way I can't try to change them after
That's
hearing
all
yours.
right.
All right. 1, Mercedes Artover and Fonda Farga, Hungary. 2, Jean and Kathy Reuter, USA. 3, we'll see if they show up, Lena Ivanova and Maria Machushkina, Russia. I mean, international. 4, Kati Reiner and Chiara Del Antonio. I think they're competing under a German flag. Not
That's
sure.
right.
Uh, 5, Viktor Kachpak and Natalia Tesek, Poland.
I feel not so bad about this. So, Jean and Kathy Reuters is 1, Kati Reiner and Chiara Del Antonio for 2, Emma Pan and Mari Black for 3,
Mm,
Mercedes and Vonda for 4, and Emily Chandran and Sammy Brownlow for 5. So, that's
mm.
both halves of Wicked Quick.
Yeah, they can get in there if the Russians don't show up.
Yeah, and I don't think the Russians had enough data for them to show up in my list. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't got data, you can't show up.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Gisela and Alejandro as number 1. Andrea Kyle and Don Rasmussen for number 2. Iris Bacher and Sophie Jewel Anderson for 3. Sarah Christensen and Tobias Premier. And Laura Pescher and Magdalena Alberti from Germany for
Hmm.
5.
All right, we match up pretty well here. I've got 1, Hazela and Alejandro. 2, Tobias and Sarah, from Sweden. 3, Andrea Kyle and Don Rasmussen from USA.
Mm,
4, Iris Bacher and Sophie Joel Anderson, Denmark. And
yes.
5, Christian Niedziela and Justina Sokolowska, Poland.
So, how does this all play out for you?
And I guess I would add, if you're a puzzler and you're still listening, even though you have to puzzle at 9:15 at night, to me this seemed like the easiest competitors to compete against,
Hmm.
the least
Softest crowd.
stacked group.
Yeah.
hmm So finals. Should I go first again?
I think you went first last time, so it seems only fair that I
Okay,
do the finals first. How far are we going?
10.
10.
The cubes. The cubes go to 10.
The cubes go to 10.
Yeah. I got a little cube last year because I came in 10th.
Oh, all right.
I was calling it a trophy, and Caron corrected me and said it was just a cube.
Okay. So I have Gisela and Alejandro as number one. Teresa and Marqueta as number two. The Reuter sisters as number three. Kelly Walter and Andrea Peng. Kati and Kiara as number five. Sarah and Lauren as number six. The Brigitas as number seven. Emma Pan and Mari Black. Karen Cavett and Tiffany Medeiros. And Becca Taylor and Alice Rowe.
Nice. All right. 1, Gisela and Alejandro, Spain. 2, Teresa and Marquita, Czech Republic. 3, Andrea and Kelly, USA. 4, Sarah and Lauren, USA. 5, international puzzlers, Lena and Maria, pending visa status. 6, Jean and Kathy Reuter, USA. 7, Victor and Natalia, Poland. 8, Kristen and Linda, Norway. 9, Katya and Chiara, Germany. 10, Mercedes and Vanda, Hungary.
All right. Off to teams. We got 3 rounds of teams. Do you want to do 3 rounds of teams?
Oh, yeah. We're almost there, Rob.
We're almost there. We doing 5 from each round?
5 from each round. Me first?
Go for it.
All right. Prelim A. 1, Wicked Quick, USA. 2, Jig Spaghetti, Italy. 3, Aussie All Stars, Australia. 4, The Oddbirds, USA. 5, The A Team, Canada.
All right, we're only off by 1 here. I have Wicked Quick as 1, Aussie All Stars as 2, the A Team as 3, Jig Spaghetti as 4, and Sorted Out from Sweden as 5.
Nice. I think your system works better for pairs and teams.
It's a more complicated system for pairs and teams for sure. All right, so my turn for round B. We've got Some Assembly Required, Pink Wizards, Minnesota Puzzlers, The Peace Seekers, and Rest in Peace.
Whoa.
Now the system breaks down.
All right. I've got 1, Some Assembly Required, USA. 2, Looking for the One Piece, Poland. 3, Red Fruit Lovers. This is Kati, Amelia Korhonen, S.J. Bodal, and Christina from Germany, Finland, and UK. 4, Not So Peaceful from Finland. That's Amelia
Magic.
Lieberman's team. And then 5, I had Vie Jóvenes from Spain.
So you're, aside from Some Assembly Required, the rest of your folks are the fast follows to the ones that I had on my list too. So we're not so far off, actually.
All
All right.
right.
See.
See, I will definitely be waking up to watch this one.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. 1, Czech Puzzle Queens. 2, We Put the Betch in You Betcha, USA. 3, Busy Birdies, USA. 4, Need for Speed, Hungary. 5, Nonstop, Spain.
All right. Well, we have the same ones, just in different orders. I have the Busy Birdies first, the Betches second, Need for Speed third, Czech Puzzle Queens fourth, and Nonstop fifth.
As we go into the team's final ranking, I will say that I put the Betches higher in the prelim. I think they'll do better on the easy puzzles. And I think Busy Birdies has some more of the, when you can't pick it and you get these like large area color blocks or fine art or photograph images. I think that will favor Busy Birdies. So I'll say that going into my rankings.
Okay, yeah. One of the things that I didn't do was look at the evolution of the competition, both in terms of pairs. I think there's a is it pairs where there's a piece bump when you go into finals from 5 to 1,000, and then obviously the competition changes on the teams pretty substantially from the regular round to the final round. So I didn't look at evolution of that because I had a finite amount of time before getting this episode out. But next time we'll be considering strengths of people who move into as you move into deeper piece counts and different kinds of puzzle selections. But do you want to start with your overall predictions?
Well, yes, but also I want to ask if your system will eventually be used to uh like do betting for puzzling because I
Well,
feel like I could do good at that.
yeah, not until it's at least less terrible than it is now. So it would have to be closer to making it a challenge for you than it is at present.
All right.
So I have the busy birdies first. How far are we going? 10 again?
10.
So I have the busy birdies first, the betches second, some assembly required, need for speed, the Czech puzzle queens, nonstop, wicked quick, kind of a jig deal, Lynn Pulsern, and the Pink Wizards.
Wow.
All right, bring it.
1, Czech puzzle queens. 2, busy birdies. 3, the betches. 4, wicked quick. 5, need for speed. 6, some assembly required. 7, looking for the one piece. 8, nonstop. 9, jig spaghetti. 10, Aussie All Stars.
We have made it through everything you could possibly want to know about the world competition, except for all the questions that you as the listener still have rattling around in your head, not the least of which is why didn't we think of such and such a person or so and so a pairs or such and such a team to talk about or ultimately dominate the competition. Clearly we didn't catch everything. So if you have your own thoughts on this, feel free to yell at us in wherever you can find comments, at mention us, tell us where we went wrong. If we did right in some places, tell us that too. Heck, I wouldn't mind the ego boost after some of the things that I've said in this in this podcast. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, I love the puzzle rumors, so send them my way. I want to know who to watch.
You need to have a place where you can secretly disseminate puzzle rumors. Well, once again, EB, thank you so much for bringing me along on this journey. It's been a delight and a pleasure, and I look forward to eating some crow later down the road.
Who knows? Your numbers might surprise us all,
That's right.
including yourself.
All right, where can people find you if they're looking for you out in the world?
I am on Instagram at Puzzle Free or Die.
Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.